Hello, welcome to this Beyond COVID-19 Summit session on Europe. I'm Ian Taylor, a journalist with Travel Weekly in London, and I'm joined today by Rita Marques, Secretary of State for Tourism in Portugal, by Eduardo Santander, Executive Director and Chief Executive of the European Travel Commission, and by Christopher Rodrigues, WTTC Ambassador and former Chair of Visit Britain. Uh, Secretary of State, if I can come to you first. Portugal has reopened to visitors. Um, we understand that's gone well. Please tell us about that, but not to visitors from the UK after the UK government's decision. And I wonder, what is your response to that?
Hello, Ian. Hello, everyone. Hello, Eduardo. Hello, Christopher. It's really nice to be with you today. Yes, as you said, we opened up for tourists a couple of weeks ago. We had an unlocked program that started a couple of weeks ago that ended by June the 6th with the opening of our beaches. So all the sanitary protocols are in place. We are quite happy with the commitment that every stakeholder has had so far, and everything is running smoothly. But yes, we are in an open dialogue with UK in order to see if the decision that all of us were informed about last Friday is going to be revised very soon. We hope so. So our Foreign Affairs Ministry is in contact with all the teams in the UK, with the UK government, and we believe that all the information will be given in order to guarantee that decision is going to be reviewed very, very soon.
Okay, and how has the restart gone? Apart from this setback from the UK, everything is open in the Algarve, in Lisbon, and so on.
Yes, definitely. So as you all know, we faced most of countries praise Portugal because we had a very prompt response to coronavirus. And so far our infection ratio has been low compared to other geographies. So with that in mind, people knew, although, we faced in a relatively well way the coronavirus pandemic, we all knew that we had to open up very carefully. And so we engaged in a very promptly way with all the companies in the sector. We engaged with them, giving training, massive training. More than 50,000 people have been trained by the Tourism Office, by Portugal, so the National Authority for Tourism. And so they have been trained. All the protocols are in place, and the rules are quite clear, quite simple for everyone. So as far as it, so of course we know that we have to reevaluate everything in a daily basis, but so far so good. So things have been running smoothly. Rules are clear, as I said, very transparent. We have been communicating them in a very clear, assertive, positive way as well. And I do believe that Portuguese have understood the rules very, very well. That's why we have managed so well the pandemic visit. So I believe that all the tourists that will come to visit us will also understand the rules and will be incentivized to comply with them.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. If I can come to you, the EU, the EEA have opened to EU visitation and also now to visitation from outside the EU. How has the restart gone across Europe?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me, and it's always a pleasure to share the stage which has distinguished panelists as Rita and Christopher, so thank you, Ian, for putting us together. Yeah, the restart is going so far so good. I mean, again, this is a very, very special summer. Let's admit it, that we are not seeking for like a resuming of full operations at 100%. Nobody could expect that. We're making our utmost, to try to help tourism entrepreneurs, but also to incentivize people to travel again. because needless to say that little outbreaks here and there are not helping. People are looking at the media and the headlines, seeing if they are going to proceed with their bookings or not. We've seen, luckily, this week a peak on bookings. So people are starting not only for looking for a holiday, but they are booking it, which is a very, very different stage when it comes to the travel stage of phases of how do you decide where are you going to go on holiday or not. So this is good news. The things that all the campaigns that many countries such as Portugal, but also UK and within the European Union, we've been doing also communication campaigns, you know, to reestablish sort of a confidence on and trust in the final consumer. It's working. It's working. Obviously, we are not expecting to have the numbers of 19 or 18. This is not going to happen this year. Let's be very, very careful here. But we see that people are definitely willing to go on holiday, and this is good news. This is good news because this is going to complement all the loans and help that the European Union and the national governments are also giving to those businesses that have been suffering for too long. We've seen something very particular to this industry is not only its resilience, which I think we've been talking about resilience for so many years, but we've seen its vulnerability too. That in cases like such an extraordinary time like these ones that we're living right now, tourism is the only sector worldwide that stopped 100%. It's from 100 to 0, and we haven't seen it in any other sector. So we have to take into account all these factors, and I have to be personally very optimistic because I have booked myself my holidays last week, so I'm not preaching water and drinking wine. So I've done my job also, and I hope to contribute also to with my little 2 cents to the tourism economy and to the hospitality businesses, because I think we all need a holiday, and it's something so inherent to the European idiosyncrasy and to our way of lives. We have to be very careful. I mean, this is a holiday which is special not because of obviously of the level of bookings or not, but also the way we're going to be traveling. We know that there are going to be protocols. We have to behave in a cautious way, in a different way, but that doesn't mean that we cannot have fun. I mean, let's be also honest. You know, we can, respecting some new rules, we can also have a decent and a normal holiday. What I'm trying to say here is that we have to respect these principles of transparency. I think governments have to be, and they are very transparent in the way they are communicating if there's an outbreak of, because this is very important. Now we know what happens if we don't do anything. So if there's an outbreak, we can isolate people and we can tell them, please, maybe it's not the right moment to visit this destination. But now we know, so we have the experience, and I think we can make a lot out of it. And I think we can even create much safer holidays.
Okay, let's come back to the protocols and so on in a minute. Just quickly, what do you make of the UK decision on Portugal? Because no one really foresaw that until the last few days before it was announced.
Well, I mean, the reality of it is, border controls and it's national sovereignty. So it's absolutely, a national competence. So, I mean, the UK has a very good diplomatic relations with Portugal. I think historically seen they have been partnering for centuries. There may have been some reasons, some commercial reasons, but some also, some concerns with regards, to flight connectivity and maybe some outbreaks and some. But as Rita was saying, it's something that I'm sure they have been working on solutions, and both sides would like to see their people flying from A to B and to B to A, because as we know, flights, it's not only to go to Portugal on holiday. There are a lot of Portuguese people also living in UK and also willing to visit, why not also London and obviously the beauties of the United Kingdom. So I think, the principles of coordination, transparency, and non-discrimination have to be kept. And this is where I think both the Portuguese government and the UK government are working around it. And I'm sure that in the next days or weeks, they will find a solution and things will be reopening and obviously business will resume as normal.
Okay, let's come back to the question of coordination. Christopher, if I can come to you, you've got a lot of experience of how the UK government works. You've dealt a lot with the government over your career. What did you make of the exclusion of Portugal from the UK COVID travel list? Christopher, you're on mute.
Hang on. Well, I should start by saying I'm an Englishman with a Portuguese name. The minister will be pleased to know that my Rodrigues finishes with an S. So I'm family, extended family, but family. So I guess the answer at the high order level is I'm as confused as everyone else about individual decisions. And I share both the minister's view that this will get resolved and Eduardo's view that it's puzzling. I think the material issue that everyone needs to worry about is that the narrative is not consistent. The list for the Foreign Office exclusions and the Foreign Office advice is now different from the Department of Transport advice. One of the things that I've learned in my years in tourism is that the winners are people who have joined up messaging between government, the trade, and consumers. And that actually is the issue that I think, the macro issue that we all need to be worried about. I share everyone's excitement that having had 0 people are coming back in. I, like Eduardo, am traveling this summer to Italy. But I think we are at actually a period of peak uncertainty because we have no economic solution evidently at hand. And whilst I absolutely get and endorse and myself looking forward to my first trip back, I think there are a bunch of uncertainties and we have to recognize that they are uncertainties into how the government will act going forward. Eduardo explained about localized lockdown. To give you an example, I'm not planning to go to a pig processing plant in Germany for a holiday. So I get that. It's a particular problem. I know how to deal with it and avoid it. I think the real risk is if there are outbreaks in holiday destinations and the governments do not control the messaging in a joined up way. Because I think consumers are certainly sensitive. As you know, Ian, we reopened the pubs on Saturday. I didn't go myself. I have a friend who I've spoken to this morning who went to a pub and said there were 2 people in it. They were sitting outside. I mean, the scenes from London from Bournemouth earlier did not speak to sensible social distancing. One of the things I think all of us in the industry have to worry about is making sure that the communications by the media are not simply highlighting the exceptions, but communicating the consistent narrative of most of the things going well. Because when you get to winter, when you get to the first outbreaks, when unemployment really kicks in and savings are depleted, this industry needs messaging to be positive and constructive, but transparent and open, not hyperbole and disaster raining forth from the newspapers on a daily basis. And that's not just their job, that's our job to get that right.
I think communications to the media is something the sector can control. What appears in the media is something altogether different, I'm afraid. Just quickly.
Word of mouth will be really important. I think that the first wave of visitors back in are going to be talking about what they found in airports, what they found on airlines, what they found in hotels, bed and breakfast and Airbnb accommodation, what they found on the beaches or in the countryside. And the great British public, I've learned over the years, is interested in what the press says and in a vacuum listens to it. But word of mouth is hugely important. And I think that the immediate example of that is what, as one person has reacted, TripAdvisor have done. I think you will find people being much, much more interested than ever in what travelers who go to an airport or airline destination say about that online.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. And just as a note of information, really, outbound travel from the UK can commence from this Friday. in the sense that you can travel internationally and not be quarantined on return as long as you follow the list of destinations. Rita and Eduardo, you've called for coordination within the EU. The UK has obviously been towing its own line, but there hasn't been wholly coordination in the EU either, has there?
Yes,
Rita.
yeah, you're absolutely right. We've claimed some coordination a couple of weeks ago, and in fact, a couple of member states have signed a letter claiming that Commission should take the lead in order to facilitate our jobs and to have a common response in Europe, a transversal response that could be, a clear message to everyone. And telling Europe as a destination, a tourist destination, is something that we should really work on. The Commission decided in a different way. Basically, they put online a website that lists all the conditions that apply today for all member states. So the information has been gathered, and now all of us could go to the website and get that information, and very easily we can conclude that the conditions that apply in each member states are really different from so they don't have really a common approach. And so from that point on, basically, each member state has been deciding whatever he wants to decide based in different criteria, in some cases, different data as well. And so we have to cope with that diversity across Europe. Notwithstanding, we've been suggesting in a very active way that the Commission should promote Europe as a tourist destination. I think it's important to claim that and to guarantee that in the future, and at the same time to work towards a more sustainable and digital offer as far as tourism is concerned. So we have, of course, a huge challenge ahead, but it's also a big opportunity. And Portugal has been working on that new agenda from 2016. So a couple of years ago, we laid down a new strategy for tourism, and we laid down a couple of objectives related with digital sustainability and so on and so forth. And now we deeply believe that first mover advantage is really an advantage. So that first mover approach is really an advantage. And I think in the future we will for sure give some cards. So we will play in a different championship, and we will work with this new agenda for sure. I don't know if Eduardo wants to also share some thoughts, because I would love to hear them as well.
Well, I would like to hear Eduardo on that, but also Eduardo, promoting Europe as a destination is something that the ETC is charged with. The EU list of countries that people can travel to and from is actually outside the EU is actually more limited than the UK list. It excludes the Caribbean, it excludes Turkey, and so on. So, what do you make of that list and the limitations of it thus far? How will it be expanded?
Well, first of all, let me praise the work of the European Commission in these last months and weeks, because I've never seen in my career here in Brussels such a good response, even when they don't have direct competence when it comes to tourism. So there's been so much support. First of all, financially, like 22% of the funding that it's going to be dedicated to this to the recovery of this crisis is going to be dedicated to tourism. So this is already a fact. Second of all, we've been advocating for the Commission to be sort of a referee with the member states and even with the third markets. And probably you've heard about the long negotiations that they had last week and weekend. Actually, they were working Saturday and Sunday, to get to that list of third countries that are now permitted to travel in and out the European Union. And this deserved a lot of clarification and a lot of hard work behind, because it's not easy. It's not easy. And the fact that there hasn't been a controversy there You know, like the case of China, for instance, you know, obviously the EU needs reciprocity to open to China, and this is not given yet. But apparently it's going to be, you know, the Chinese will provide reciprocity in the next days or weeks. So we will be opening to China. US is a clear case that the Commission always defends that this is still a sanitary and a health crisis. And as long as there is a risk for human lives, they will never put business before human lives. And therefore, you know, the decision of not opening to the United States yet, I think it's a valid one. Nobody in the business has complained about that. I think everybody understands why. Canada is open, Australia is open, Japan is open. Now, it's at least the Commission has said we are fine with this. Now it's the decision of each member state also to open or not, which is probably where your question was going to. Each country has its own diplomatic relations and its own, you know, like trading relations, but also they have their own health protocols. And this is where it comes, you know, the jigsaw, the puzzle of, okay, Canada is open, but it's not open yet to all countries. For instance, Belgium is opening tomorrow. There are already flights, I think, to Germany, and there are already flights to Austria, and I am not sure about Portugal, Rita, so maybe you, but I see that this is going to be the process the whole summer. It's a reopening in different stages. There's no like a day that, you know, you open the door and everybody, you know, it's every single state is analyzing their own circumstances, because also it happens that in some places the entry points are also hot points of for epidemiological reasons. Some countries, you know, the capitals were not so affected, but we see that, you know, they want to avoid going to back to square one, because that could be a disaster, absolute disaster, not only for our industry, you know, but, you know, imagine to restart from zero again. So, and if we have to do something, is to learn from our mistakes. And even our industry, which is suffering so much, we cannot just be too fast now and willing to have everything that it was. I think that's a tremendous error to make now. So we have to be very, very conscious that every single step has to be not proved, but, you know, checked twice, double checked, and we cannot be frivolous when it comes, you know, to, okay, let's reopen and let's forget about the COVID and forget about the crisis. So for me, the message here is that the union has done a great work, has been in dialogue with everybody, and actually they fulfill the role, because now the hot potato is on the member states, and also in the business on the member states. Some businesses are not even willing to open yet, because they say, you know, the amount of business that is there yet doesn't suffice me for, you know, for survival. So I prefer to keep latent, so that once everything is up and running again, I can operate properly. And that's also a valid decision. So we cannot force things to happen. Same thing with, you know, the highly criticized state aid for airlines. I mean, airlines are of immense importance for the travel industry. You know, it's not, but not only for trading, you know, for business, for everything. So obviously there has to be some kind of aid, because if that doesn't happen, nothing is going to move again. And they've done, you know, we've been daily contact with the airline industry, industries here and with the airlines associations here in Brazil. They are not only suffering, but working so hard, you know, to resume business at almost their own cost, because they don't have any liquidity left for anything.
Okay.
So let's be also understandable. And coming back to Rita's and Christopher points there, you know, media here has to be our ally. A friend of mine who is a journalist always say, you know, the word media comes from the word mediate, between the public opinion and the reality, right? Or the facts. And we need you now, you know, to spread the voice of optimism, and, you know, because just a few outbreaks can kill again the tourism season without being realistic. They are not affecting the whole European landscape or every single destination. So it could be even in places which are not normally visited by people. So again, thank you to Ian, you know, for having us today here. But it is important that all your colleagues help us, you know, spreading also a positive voice.
Okay, I'm afraid I can't be held responsible for all my colleagues in the UK. If all you want is optimism, I fear you will be disappointed, certainly from the UK mainstream media. But I want to ask all of you, so for first you, Christopher, what needs to happen now? What are the priorities now?
I think there are three things that are part of a winning solution. The first is that governments handle the exit from lockdown and localize future outbreaks, which are inevitable. They are handled well in a way that people comprehend. Secondly, in the trade, from hoteliers through to airlines and everyone else, that trust is rebuilt through credible, consistent delivery of interventions that are appropriate. And thirdly, that consumers regain confidence and have the financial resources to travel. Now, the one thing that is on our side is that people no longer regard travel as a privilege, it's seen as a right. And it's a statement of your freedom as a human being. And that hasn't, I don't think that's gone away. So you've got latent demand, that's not the problem. And the other bit that I think, and the minister may have some comments on this, but we spent a lot of time, certainly I did in the UK, and Eduardo I know has done. I remember talking to Cameron after the Prime Minister Cameron after the financial crisis, and the thing that got his attention was that 1/3 of the new jobs after the financial crisis in the following 3 years being created in tourism. So on the one hand, Eduardo has articulated the very serious problem of tourism, which has been hit. WTTC estimates north of 100 million people, jobs at risk or out, gone. If you want to get employment back, unless you've got a magic carpet, you have to get tourism, hospitality, restaurants going, because they have a huge employment coefficient. And that's where there's a intersection between the interests of the travel industry, those in it, the consumers, and the interests of government. You have to keep trying to make this work, because if it doesn't work, the ripple effect will go way beyond the travel industry.
Sure. Rita, what needs to happen now? What are the priorities?
Well, I absolutely agree with Christopher. The priority is to retain jobs, maintain companies alive. And of course, when we don't have clients flying, then we have an issue, especially because, as we all know, tourism depends on people, depends on experiences, depends on traveling. And so our first priority should be, of course, to maintain jobs, retain jobs, inject liquidity in the companies, and guarantee that they have all the conditions to survive in short, medium term. Of course, this is a kind of temporary situation, so extraordinary situation, and so we should interpret this that way. So inject liquidity in order to maintain companies alive while the situation is not yet controlled. So basically, that's the first priority that all governments have, and Portuguese one, of course, is facing in a daily basis. So this is our first priority. Second priority is, of course, to instigate trust, and we know that uncertainty is here, uncertainty is around, but things will change. So we have to keep the faith, and we have to believe that the future is going to be better than today's situation. So in order to instigate trust, because trust is a very simple word but has a huge impact on tourism industry. So in order to instigate trust, we have to train people, train all the workers of the sector in order to make them sensitive and to be more familiar with new trends as far as sanitary rules are concerned. We have, of course, to communicate in a very clear way all the rules that apply, in a positive way also, because it's not a question of forbidden or not being allowed to. It's a question of reversing the communication plan and make this, as long as you comply the rules, you can have a wonderful experience in the beach, in the countryside, whatever. So I think the second priority should be to promote trust and work with the flight carriers in order to make the flights alive again. It's very important. Eduardo mentioned that, you know, the importance of working with all the key players in the transport industry across Europe in the first phase, and in the second phase, working with all the flight carriers for intercontinental flights. So this is going to happen, but maybe in the second stage. And with the companies alive and with the people with desire to travel, because, you know, all of us would like very much to travel and to get out from home after this very tough time when we were locked down in our houses. So we believe that tourism will kick again very soon. Hopefully, with activity will resume next year for sure, and we will continue to fly and to have the willingness to travel, because it's something that belongs to our DNA. So a couple of years ago when we had 9/11, everybody was saying, "Oh, the industry is going to change forever." Yes, it changed, but it changed in a better way, I guess. People. And after a couple of months, 1 year or two, the numbers were rising again, alive and kicking. And so we are optimistic. And again, our assets, most of the assets in most of the countries have not been damaged or infected by COVID. So we will be around for sure. And all the characteristics that made Portugal a good destination and that make Europe a good destination will be ready very, very, very soon. In order to conquer new clients, for sure.
Okay, thank you, Eduardo. I'm keen to know what you think of the priorities now. But I heard you say last month, nobody is going to feel absolutely safe if we have to wear a mask to a hotel pool, can't use the hotel breakfast room, have to separate on the beach. That suggests limits to the extent to which the industry can inspire confidence for the moment anyway.
I think, yeah, I mean, tourism, it's based on uncertainties. I mean, you don't go on holiday, you don't go to the beach if you are not gonna find there like a nice sunny environment and safe environment and so on. You don't go to the mountains if you don't know. But there is always risk. You can go to a mountain and being hit by an avalanche, or you can go to the sea and get in a bad current. That can happen, but it doesn't have to, right? Because there are you put some prevention behind, you don't go off piste, or you don't swim in areas that you should not swim and so on. So I'm trying to explain to my friends, to my business partners, and to media that, this is the same thing. People have to start thinking that COVID is a risk which is there, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen to you if you take the measures that are being deployed and that have been advised. And if they tell you in a hotel that you have to stay, within your sunbeds, or separated from the others, or in the restaurants the tables are no longer so squeezed, or if you have to wear masks while flying, this is fine. It's for the benefit of everybody, and this is where we have to be communicative, but also positive in the, we are doing that, to save lives and to make our lives run again with a certain normality. So there's nothing wrong. Rita was mentioning 9/11 or terror attacks. I remember how annoying it was for all of us, to remove our shoes, to start putting the liquids in bags, or not, oh gosh, I forgot the deodorant, it was too big, or, these things and that. It became a completely normal thing in our lives, to remove shoes, or not to put liquids, or, travel much lighter, and so on and so on and so on. So things can change and will change, and people will adapt to that. I was talking to my family in southern Spain yesterday, and people say, on the beach, nothing is happening. People are naturally keeping their distance from each other. People are auto-controlling, auto-regulating themselves. So you don't need a policeman, putting order in the places. So you'll see that there will be much more good news than bad news. Obviously, there will be some misbehavior or antisocial behavior and so on. That has been always the case. But for that, I think we pledge for common sense and also for, for the intelligence of people. And the majority of the people are just very conscious about the situation, and they will follow the rules, and they will do their best to keep themselves safe and the others too.
Okay, so we've got to the point where travel is restarting. It seems that to move beyond this stage and maybe extend travel to intercontinental travel is going to require additional measures, testing probably. Is that how you see it, and who will pay the cost of testing, say either before departure and on arrival in destinations? Christopher.
Well, the person who's going to pay for everything in this, including the taxes to recover from COVID and the expenditure of governments on all manner of things, is the consumer. It's only a question of how it gets delivered. I mean, one of the things, I am an optimist about this, but I think the next 12 to 24 months is going to be bouncy. You know, one of the things that I noticed, you talk about who pays for the testing. I am supposed to be going with my wife to Japan in September. It looks like that might be possible. The Japanese need to balance up with the UK. The UK says I can go, the Japanese aren't sure I can land yet, but well, I think in the next few weeks we'll see that. But I did look because the thing my wife was going to has been delayed for a year. So I just looked to see what the comparative cost would be as close to a repeat at the same time a year on. The cost is double. The airline cost is double. I'm not saying the airlines don't need to make that money, there's less competition, there's less chances to go through Frankfurt or Amsterdam or whatever. But the practicality is, if you turn a business class flight to Nagoya from £2,000 to £4,000, there is an intake of breath. And if you hadn't got a reason to go, I think there's some variables, particularly in the pricing equation, that are relevant to how we recover. And the other one is hotels, where interestingly, you're seeing some smart moves, I think, with hoteliers not deep discounting to get you back in. Because from a consumer perspective, what do I want to know? I want to know that the hotel is taking all of the precautions that the minister and Eduardo have talked about. And I'll pay for that. I don't want £20 or £30 off for a good deal in a badly run hotel. So some of the, and what then becomes interesting is the chains are already acting on this. They've worked out what's important, and they've got brand money that can talk to what you find in an intercon hotel or hotel, Hilton Group hotel. I think the more challenging one, and this would be really interesting to hear how the minister is operating in Portugal. I think I know a little bit of what they're doing with their security statement, but it's what if you would typically go to a small bed and breakfast or the equivalent small property, how do I know what they're doing? Do I actually think that most of the case they'll be doing even better than a big hotel chain? Yes, because the owners personally care about running that business. They're not a bunch of hotel cleaners having to be retrained. I think both will happen, but these are the sort of uncertainties in this middle period. And we'll get back. We're all saying the same thing. This will return. The chances that travel as an act of human existence will disappear, it's just not going to happen. But it is going to be bumpy.
Okay, Rita, how do you respond to that? It's one thing for the big hotel chains to have protocols in place and so on, but what about the large number of smaller places? I know you've got your clean and safe certification in Portugal.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I just let me just say this. I think it's very important. Health authorities should really have should provide clear information and should go for transparency. I think it's very important for the health authorities to share daily information about the evolution of the pandemic, call for everyone's responsibility, commitment, and apply measures when and where it is necessary. And this is, should be one of our primary goals across the country, across Europe, across the world. Having said that, it's very important to instigate trust, as we all know. We know that things will change, but I definitely think that things will change for better in the future. So in order to guarantee that all the measures are in place, we have to train people. I think that literacy is always the solution. So we have to train people, we have to train the staff, we have to train consumers, the clients, because again, tourism is an activity from people to people, and if we don't involve people in a transparent way, things will not result. They are not going to work. So how I can respond to that? Well, apart from the seal, and you said it was a pioneer initiative in Europe, so we were the first ones to take the lead on that. But the seal is important. Most important is to train people and to continue to guarantee that all the inspections, all the audits are there. And if we find that something is wrong, we should immediately correct in order to instigate trust. And at the end of the day, this is going to be a routine. It's something normal. Again, taking out the shoes and putting the shoes again. So training the people, I think it's really, really the solution at the end of the day.
Okay. Eduardo, I wonder, how well prepared do you think governments, industry and public are for a possible second wave, perhaps this winter? Will people adjust better if and when it happens a second time?
They are very well prepared. Yeah, I think governments have understood that the cost of prevention, and when the whole outbreak in Europe started, we were like in the denial stage of seeing how that cannot happen to us, and therefore many governments understood that that the health system maybe they deserve also more attention when it comes to buying of materials and sanitary stuff like a mask and so on. We've learned so much in this just a few months. And governments in particular, they know that they cannot afford a second wave. And there's no country that can be run on a lockdown, on a second lockdown. So therefore, my answer to that is very clear. I think we're pretty prepared. Also, as individuals, we know what to do. Nobody will complain staying home if we have to again, because we know that we can save lives, that we can boost the economy faster if we stay home earlier, and so on and so on. So I think for the time being, or for the first time, I mean, at a global scale, this is affecting everybody, rich and poor, north and south, west and east. So it's just something that we have to do together. And in the, I think, rare case of a second outbreak, big outbreak, which I think now, all the little ones have been controlled very quick. We are very prepared. We know what to do now, and we will definitely defeat this virus sooner or later. I always say from the very beginning, this virus will end naturally or with human intervention. And we've heard also very hopeful news about the development of medicines, but also vaccines. And obviously it's a matter of deployment and how the supply that has to be created for the whole world population and so on. But we're going to be there. I talked to a friend of mine working here at DG Santé, which is, the Director General on thing, and there will be a vaccine. It's just a matter of time. We couldn't have it right away as we were all wishing. It doesn't work like that. But there will be one, and one day we will be laughing about this 2020 year, saying, okay, the same way we were laughing. I mean laughing in a reflective way, say, okay, what did we learn, and how did we adapt also the tourism industry in that period of reflection? Did we understand that we have this vulnerability and that we should also have some preventive measures in the future, also for the industry, particularly, to protect employment, to protect SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprise, family-owned businesses. 85% of the tourism entrepreneurship in Europe is made of very little companies.
Okay.
So how can we protect them in the future?
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. We're running out of time. So one final question, and if each of you could keep your answer really brief, please, because then we have to close. What's the biggest challenge now? Christopher.
Maintaining the narrative. Positive narrative about tourism.
Definitely. I was thinking about, a prompt answer, an assertive answer, and I would say, maintaining communication in a very positive, continuous way in order to clarify what's going on. There is a lot of counter information for sure.
Eduardo?
For me, it's the much needed trust that it will come with transparent information.
Okay. Thank you. You've been a marvelous panel. Thank you, Rita, Eduardo, Christopher. Thank you all of you for joining us. We look forward to the next summit session on the Middle East. And Rita, we look forward to seeing you in Evora at the forum on November the 5th and 6th.
For sure. I'll be there. And I hope to see you there too. Bye-bye. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.